Byron Donalds of Florida, who is now running to be governor, something I know a little about, of the great Sunshine State. Congressman, how are you? Good to see you.
It's good to be with you, Governor. Thanks for having me on.
Look, following James Carville is never an easy task. Let's jump on, if you don't mind, let's start with what I finished with James there. Let's talk about the SAVE Act. We have this law in New Hampshire where you have to, when you register to vote, you have to show proof of citizenship. It works fine. There's very, very little problems with it. Talk to me a little bit about why you think it's necessary and if you think there's any pros or cons to the political fallout that might come from something like this.
Well, first, I think it's necessary. Obviously, if you go back, and I'll use James Carville's point, from Bush 41's administration till now, there's been a massive increase in illegal immigration in the United States. That's beyond a shadow of a doubt. Secondarily, you have states like Oregon, like Washington State, like California. Most states in the country have now gone to mail-in voting as opposed to what the voting system used to be. And unless you're from Florida or Georgia or some other states that take vote by mail seriously and the controls around it, it's actually quite loose to get an absentee ballot and to vote that ballot. So in short, if you have to demonstrate your citizenship in order to vote in federal elections, that's a common sense approach in a time where we have had administrations in the past allow for massive illegal immigrations and access to many systems, some welfare and potentially also voting.
And talk just for the viewers out there, next steps, right? It passed the House. What is the next steps? Does it have a shot to move through the Senate? Is it going to be changed before it potentially hits the president's desk?
I think it has a chance to move through the Senate. We had 4 Democrat members of the House join Republicans to pass that bill in a bipartisan fashion today. And I think if you're a Senate Democrat in a purple state, you got to sit back and think about the fact that illegal immigration is massively unpopular, obviously, and also nobody wants illegals voting in federal elections. This is a common sense approach to deal with where we are right now. And to the people who are concerned about married women being able to register, there's this thing in the United States, every state does it now, called Real ID. Every state, through their identification systems, actually track things like birth certificates, etc. And as long as you have a real ID, which virtually every American has to have today, it should be easy for you to register to vote.
There you go. There you go. Now, I want to come back to the topic of the day, and that's tariffs. And I'm going to go back to James again. I thought James's words were quite harsh. He does not hold back. He talked about Trump wanting to, quote, actively trying to destroy America. He doesn't like America. He doesn't like anything or anybody. And it was a heck of a lot of negativity there, to say the least. So what do you say to that? Is there even a response to that? Is there a sense that that when it comes to the tariffs, that there's a path forward over the next 90 days to negotiating this stuff out? Where's the drive there?
Well, look, a couple things. Number one, obviously, Donald Trump loves the country, and the American people believe that because they voted him to be the 47th president of the United States. I think the tariff policy, I was having meetings on Capitol Hill with many different CEOs and owners of companies who were trying to figure out where we were going to go with tariffs. And my response was the same. Donald Trump is a realist. He's going to look at the evidence that is in front of him, and he's going to make a decision. And everything that's driving this administration is about the forgotten men and women of the United States of America. It's not even really about the CEOs and Wall Street. It is about Main Street. It's about mom and pops. It's about individual Americans making sure they are a part of the wealth creation process here in the United States. So I think the president took a look at the tariff strategy as it was unfolding, looked at the reality on the ground, saw countries calling, begging him, calling his phone nonstop, trying to get a meeting. And he said, you know what? If you all want to come in and cut a deal, let's go cut a deal and do something that's in the interest of the United States.
Now, Byron, quickly before I lose you, you're out there, you're campaigning, you're doing the retail politics. What's the feedback? I mean, do folks come up to you and say, hey, what's going on? Is there a strategy here? Are they being reasonable or unreasonable in terms of their willingness to wait this thing out?
Voters are giving President Trump the benefit of the doubt. They know that they voted him to be president. And let's be very clear. His economic policies already are significantly better than those of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. People remember the 20% inflation unleashed upon them by terrible Democrat economic policy. They're giving Donald Trump the opportunity to fix that economy, as well as secure the border and deport criminal illegal aliens.
There you go. Look, the next 90 days is going to be very telling, without a doubt. Congressman Byron Donalds, thank you so much for joining us. Good to see you, brother.
Hey, thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget, click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.